Her Lexus came at me so fast, I barely had time to wipe the sweat off my forehead. The crunch of metal against the side of my old tractor echoed across the cornfield, and before I could even say a word, she was pointing at me, screaming into her phone that I had attacked her with farm equipment. Then, just to seal her lie, she picked up a rock and hurled it right into my windshield, cracking it into a perfect spider web. I didn't flinch, because I knew the camera hidden in the fence post had caught everything. And for the first time in months, I felt the storm turning in my favor. I should back up. My name's Daniel Carter. I spent over 20 years in the Army. Came home with gray in my hair and scars under my skin. And all I wanted was to rebuild what my father left behind. A modest ranch house and a spread of cornfields out past a place now called Maple Creek Estates, when I was a kid. That was nothing but farmland. But some developer turned it into a suburban dreamscape with beige houses, granite countertops, and a homeowners association that policed mailboxes like they were guarding Fort Knox. I didn't move back to be part of a neighborhood. I moved back to keep the land alive. Karen showed up 3 mornings after I moved in. Clipboard in one hand, fake smile plastered across her face. She introduced herself as president of the Maple Creek HOA. She didn't ask about me, didn't care why I'd returned. She wanted to clarify property expectations, her words, not mine. I told her plain and simple, this land isn't part of your HOA, never has been, never will be. She twitched a smile, said, we have visual covenants, like she was the queen of aesthetics, and warned me that tractors and farm tools were lowering property values. I laughed right in her face. That was the start of it. At first, it was just paperwork. Notices dropped at my door about visual nuisances, a drone buzzing over my barn, snapping pictures of my tractor, a post in their HOA newsletter about dangerous heavy machinery near a bus stop. I shrugged it off, kept working. I'd rebuilt irrigation, repaired fences, got the tractor running after months of tinkering. Every row I cleared was like reclaiming a piece of myself after all those years overseas. But Karen didn't stop. She sent more notices. She called inspectors, zoning officers, even the cops once. They all came out, saw my permits, my deed, and left shaking their heads. But the damage was being done in quieter ways. Neighbors started glaring. Someone egged my mailbox. Every time Karen drove past in her Lexus, she slowed down, rolled the window halfway, snapped pictures like she was paparazzi. Harvest season rolled around, and that's when it escalated. I fired up the tractor at dawn, the old engine coughing but steady, dust rolling across the field. It felt honest. It felt right. Karen, standing on a stool in her perfect yard, screamed over the fence about diesel fumes and dust on her patio cushions. I told her calmly, "Ma'am, this is a farm. Farms make noise. Farms make dust." She turned beet red and stormed back inside, heels clacking like a metronome of rage. Hours later, I got an email demanding I cease all agricultural operations until the HOA could review. I laughed so hard I nearly spit coffee across the table. She had no jurisdiction, but that wasn't going to stop her. Then came the signs. She staked one near the walking trail. Caution, dangerous machinery, children and pets at risk. With her phone number at the bottom like she was a sheriff. I didn't rip it out. I took pictures, time-stamped them, and slid them into a folder on my computer I titled HOA Nonsense. The file grew fast. Pictures of her car parked near my fence, video clips from the cameras I'd installed, one under the barn awning, another at the east gate. I knew, sooner or later, she'd go too far, and when she did, I'd be ready. Still, the pressure gnawed at me. One night, someone painted "Keep It Quiet" across my fence. I stared at the sloppy black letters until my fists hurt from clenching. I painted it over by noon the next day. But inside, something cracked. I remember standing in the barn that evening, oil-stained rag in hand, whispering to myself, maybe she's right. Maybe I don't belong here anymore. Maybe all I'm doing is fighting a losing war against people who'll never understand. It was the first time I thought about packing it in, selling, walking away. But then I remembered why I came back. My dad's tractor, the land that had raised 3 generations of Carters. The quiet mornings when the fog still hugged the corn rows and it felt like the world was steady. I wasn't about to let some power-drunk neighbor rewrite my family's history. That thought lit a fire in me. I wasn't going to run. I was going to fight. But in my own way. I doubled down on cameras. I called Jeff, my old buddy from high school turned land-use lawyer, and started pulling zoning records. That's when we found it. The HOA never finalized the maintenance agreement for the gravel road they claimed authority over. Translation: they had no right, no jurisdiction, no say in what I did on my side of the fence. Karen's kingdom was built on sand, and she didn't even know it. The final straw came that Saturday afternoon. I'd parked the tractor half off the easement road while checking irrigation lines when I heard the roar of an engine. Karen's Lexus tore down the gravel like a missile. She didn't slow down. She rammed the quarter panel of my tractor, threw open her door, and started shrieking. "He assaulted me! He left it there on purpose!" She was already dialing 911, spitting lies with the confidence of someone who believed volume equaled truth. Then she bent down, grabbed a rock, and smashed my windshield. I didn't say a word. I just crossed my arms and looked straight at the hidden camera blinking red in the fence post. 10 minutes later, Officer Ryan Clark pulled up, the same young cop she'd filed noise complaints with before. Karen was already in performance mode, trembling voice, hand on her chest, telling Ryan how terrified she was. I stayed quiet until Ryan came over. "You okay?" he asked. "Fine," I said, nodding at the cracked glass. "Tractor's not." He raised a brow. "She says you blocked the road." I pointed to the fence post camera. "Got it all. Her acceleration, the collision, the rock. Want to see?" He nodded slowly. I handed him a USB labeled with the timestamp. When he walked back to her, her triumphant smile died. She demanded arrests, supervisors, action. Ryan just said, "We'll review all evidence." That was the moment I knew. Her grip on the board, on the neighbors, even on the cops. It was slipping. But Karen wasn't done. She filed a civil suit against me for emotional distress and neighborhood interference. She tried to rally the board with flyers about community integrity. What she didn't count on was me delivering every homeowner a packet of evidence, her vandalism, her false 911 call, and, most damning, financial records showing she'd been skimming HOA dues for years, landscaping payments to her nephew, monthly stipends labeled administrative costs, 7 years of fraud tucked under her iron hairdo. The neighborhood erupted. People who once crossed the street to avoid me now sent letters of support. One note, slipped under my gate, read, "Please don't give up. We're rooting for you." The board called an emergency meeting. Karen showed up in a red suit, lipstick like armor, yelling about how I was smearing her reputation. I stood, showed the footage, the documents, the proof. The room went silent. Then Glenn, the board's vice president, cleared his throat and said, "We call for a vote." 15 minutes later, Karen was stripped of her title. Court was the final nail. Her lawyer tried to spin tales about industrial-level machinery and psychological trauma. But the judge wasn't buying it. Jeff laid out the footage, the Lexus crash, the rock, the fake 911 call, followed by zoning maps and financial records. The judge looked Karen dead in the eye and said, "Your claims are unsubstantiated. Your actions are harassment. Your misuse of HOA funds is referred to audit." Then he dismissed her case with prejudice and ordered her to pay restitution and my legal fees. Karen left that courthouse without looking at me, jaw tight, cheeks flushed, shoving through reporters who shouted questions she ignored. That was her downfall, not in a dramatic arrest, not in handcuffs, but in the quiet collapse of authority she'd clung to for years. A week later, a for sale sign appeared on her lawn. The Lexus was gone. The house sat dark. I didn't celebrate. I walked out to the tractor she'd tried to destroy, ran my hand along the dent she left, and listened to the silence of my fields. Not empty silence, earned silence. The kind you only get when you stand your ground and refuse to let someone else write your story. And if there's one thing I learned from all of this, it's simple. Never underestimate the power of truth to topple a bully. This is HOA Drama Unfolded.